How can anyone know whether they're of the truth or not with like 8 trillion divisions in the world? Um, and I that concave Earth evidence video I got a little loud for some reason. I don't even know why, but it's not even what I mainly even focus on. I just brought it up. Um, I will repeat that the world, that the devils that run this world, that the globe Earth is a lie, period. But one of the explanations, one of the problems I started to have with flat Earth was that over the last few years there were big time rich and famous people that started to promote it. Basketball players and whatever I'd see in the news. I'd read of it since I don't actually have a TV anything. I have to look on the internet and Google for the news because everything on the TV is trash, pretty much. and uh, and I started to see a bunch of people promoting it, rich, famous people, and some people started supporting it, and some people it created division, and the fact that they did that and sort of let it out, it started to bother me. So then a while back, I looked into the issues with it, specifically the issues with flat Earth. Don't ignore the issues. And then it seemed pretty apparent to me that they don't want, I'm not seeing the evidence that they're rich and famous people are letting out the concave Earth, truth. I could be off on this, but I've seen flat Earth go out with big time channels and big time this and big time that promoting it. And I think they'd rather have no one believe in flat Earth. Ultimately, they would like to have everyone believe in the globe. But if there's people that are starting to question these things, they have to give another false thing for them to believe. And I think that's what they did with the flat Earth, because the last thing they want is people to believe the actual truth. It's better to believe in another. It's better to expose the globe and believe in another lie than to have the truth. That's kind of that's a different side of the evidence. It sort of looks like that's what happened over the last 5 years or whatever. That they promoted the flat Earth to like catch and trap everyone else that is denying the globe Earth. But I'll go one step deeper on because it's all about like with everyone in that movement, it's all about shills and all these other things. I can say for certain I'm not a shill, and I'm not have nothing to do with the government. I'm a loner with no friends, and I don't do anything with anyone. That's who I am. I speak whatever I'm given at the time. And people who think they know everything, well, they got something coming, because nobody knows everything. You're always deceived about something, and that's the whole purpose of being undeceived every day. And when you start leading people to the actual truth, the core of it, forget everything else. Are those people, whether they support flat Earth, globe, or concave, are they keeping his commandments and his way, or are they not? Are they promoting that? Are they teaching people that? And I'm not seeing it. No, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that. Christianity says they do that. They make up their own definition, and the Roman Catholic Church makes up their own definition of what truth is and say they do these things, but they don't. So I'm not a shill, and I'm not majorly deceived on these things. I could see pretty clearly what's going on, that this division about the earth is probably a bigger deception than the people that support each side than even they realize, because that's the main thing they're focusing on. So if that took you off of the narrow way, well, then they got deceived, didn't they? You know, even if they had the truth about whatever the earth is, there's no scripture in there that says the gospel is the earth is concave or flat or a globe, is there? At the end of the day, there is no such scripture, is there? Um, you know, it's going to ruffle feathers, but I mean, as kindly as I can say it, there's no such thing in scriptures as concave Christians. You know, I'm sorry to let you down, but at the same time, I'm not sorry because I'm not I'm not going into a box, into a category, and going to war. My war is internal every day, and you would have no clue what this war is like if you're not on this narrow way. The people that don't know what sin is, they have no clue what the actual battle and war is. Even if there is a war on the outside for truth and all these other things, it's just a trap. It's like a trap for a fox. It's like a net for birds to get stuck in, you know? And you can picture the birds getting stuck and trapped in the net, you know? It thought it was free. It thought it had the truth. It thought it could fly, and it got trapped. Didn't see the net, didn't see the glass, and ran into the glass and banged its head and killed itself, right? Like birds do so often, they run right into the windows because they couldn't see it. So the question is, do the people that their main focus is on the earth, that's it, main focus, how do they know they're not running into those windows like those birds? Well, they wouldn't know unless they're asking the Father for truth every day to show them what deception is. So to some of these people, I would be, I guess, an enemy or for the elite or whatever, which I'm not for them. Um, Eventually, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess, and they're all going to melt like wax with fear someday. But until that point, there just seems to be a trillions of divisions to trap people, to make a name, a group, and have leaders run it and spread this truth. But I don't see the disciples doing that. I don't see the disciples spreading the gospel, which is concave earth or whatever else you want to add into there. You know, do the concave earth people keep the commandments? Do they do that? Or is that like just some kind of fancy, nice thing to say, you know? We're Christians, we keep the commandments. Well, I don't see anyone actually doing that. The real sign, one of the real signs, like I read, it's a sign for his people. They'll keep the Sabbath day. They'll at least do that. I mean, they're at least going to keep the fourth commandment. Are they doing that? Well, if they're not, then what's going on? You know, shouldn't you focus on what you're not doing, what you're breaking, which is sin? That's the definition of sin, transgression of the law, instead of only focusing on something that's on the outside that's not, doesn't have to do with breaking the law, you know. I mean, yeah, there's deception, but I don't know of any scripture that focuses that you absolutely need to know what the earth is perfectly in order to be in the kingdom. I don't see any scripture that says that. I do see scripture that makes it pretty clear to me the earth doesn't move and the heavens move. The globe earth is a lie, period. But whether it's flat, which I don't think anymore like I used to, I don't think it's that. I think concave fits it better, but forget that. forget that if you're breaking his commandments and you're breaking his laws, what's the point then? Sin is transgression of the law. As soon as someone can prove and show me that and find the opposite verse that sin is not transgression of the law, or the law was abolished and his commandments were abolished and it all vanished and went away, even though it says in the age to come, during the reign, the 1,000 years, the age, the law will go forth from Zion, and his people will rebuke many people, and all the nations will flow to it. They're going to keep the Sabbath day, and they're going to keep other things, and the law will go forth, the one that already exists. So why would it go away for the church age and then suddenly come back? Like, I guess that's what Christianity claims. It's gone for the church age. We're the church. We have nothing to do with Israel. Read Ephesians 2 and then it's over. It's over. Just one chapter, it's over. You're not separate. Christians aren't separate from Israel. But they've made themselves separate. Even though the scriptures speak to the foreigner, don't call yourself utterly separated from Yahweh. Don't say that. The scripture's in there. Every little lie, every deception, every little truth, every angle for life, there's a scripture for it. I'm convinced of it. And there's a scripture for people saying we're separate, we're the church. Scripture already told you that people would do that. The foreigners, the Gentiles were the foreigners. Anyone who wasn't part of the Abraham's physical seed was a Gentile, foreigner, alienated, foreigner, same thing. And it says of the foreigners. Don't say we're utterly separated from the house of Yahweh, from Israel, from everything. I did a video and go back to it, and I read like 5 or 6 verses that said the same thing. Now, if there was one verse, that would be enough, but I think I read like 5. It's something like that, 5 or so. In the Old Testament scriptures, where it says that the foreigner is to do the same thing that the Hebrews were doing back then. No different. They weren't to be treated different. The law wouldn't be different for them. The sacrifices that they did back then wouldn't be different for them. Okay, now you got to find the opposite verse if you think that this truth that I've came to more recently, and admitting my own error, okay, that's not an easy thing to do. Find me the opposite verses that say the foreigner does something completely different, that the foreigner is utterly separated from Israel. Find me the perfectly opposite verses now, if you want to support what the Christianity supports. So when Paul says the Gentiles are being grafted in, they are no longer alienated or foreigners. They're one with the Hebrews, both Jew, Hebrew, and Gentile. And I think most Christians will say this is how you trap them. That yes, the Jews still should keep the law and they should keep all those other things. That's for them. The church is for us. Oops, they just shot themselves in the foot. Because Ephesians 2 clearly says you've been made one. And go and watch the other videos where it says, and look for them yourself, the verses that talk about foreigners. Do a search on your phone, foreigner. Probably any translation, King James or New King James, whatever. Foreigner, alien, and look up all those verses. Read them all in Old Testament scriptures and see how it says the foreigner is to do the exact same thing. And there is no such verse that says the opposite. I know that. And now Paul is grafting them in. So they're supposed to do what? The same thing the Jews were doing. See how it all crumbles down? The whole entire church world crumbles to the ground because they say that the Jews are only supposed to keep the commandments and everything else. If you've been one with them, made one, there is no Jew, there's no Greek, there's no male, there's no female. The reason why he said all that is everyone is one if you're a believer. And it's over. It's really simple. If you refuse to believe this, It's just out of willful refusal and denial. But some of you will come back and you'll see that's true. Some of you won't come back. You'll convince yourself in your own mind that someone like Martin Zender is truth, or anyone else who teaches exactly what he teaches that he got from Enoch or whatever, that Christianity is ultimately separated. And he's just another division that looks good to a certain group of people to draw disciples after himself, where he came out of and says the church world is a lie, and they teach lies, but then he himself does the same thing. A few verses that they don't understand from Paul's letters, that's it, just a few, and they ignore the ones that are really, that speak against what they teach. They ignore those, like the one where he says we established the law. What happened there? So just because it's by faith for the Jew and by faith or through faith for the Gentile, do we then nullify or make void, cast it aside like they claim, the law? Certainly not. On the contrary, we establish it. Well, all scriptures have to line up with that understanding that it didn't just disappear. Then there's a misunderstanding on the other verses that they say contradicts what he said there. That's all it is just a misunderstanding. Once you have the truth, everything flows perfectly. You could use scriptures anywhere, wherever you want, and just make it all line up. And that lines up with, I think Peter said, that someone read his epistles as some of his epistles are hard to understand, and they would twist them to their own destruction as they do the rest of the scriptures. Find me a verse where that the opposite says his writings are easy to understand and that everyone would understand them. Find me the opposite verse. So they're fulfilling the prophecy of what he said, that his writings are hard to understand. You better not take a few verses, one or two, out of context and make up something you want and run with it, when the people that do that are doing exactly what Peter said they would do. They don't understand a few verses and then they run with it and they cast aside all the other words when their own Messiah says, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Father. Do I need to explain what that means? I guess so. It means we live by every word, and as far as I understand, the only scriptures that are actual true scriptures are the ones that the Messiah himself endorsed, and the ones that the Jews knew to be scriptures for sure, which is Genesis through Malachi. They had it grouped and ordered differently than we do now, but they're the same books. I think they bunched up like the minor and some prophets, and they put them in a group, and then they had 22 books, whereas now the Old Testament books are 39 or something like that, but they're the same ones. From righteous Abel to Zechariah, and I believe Second Chronicles is where that story is, and Second Chronicles used to be the last scripture and the way they had it ordered. So he went from A to Z. Christians even know about this, and they never endorsed or quoted from the Apocrypha or whatever else. I believe what the Father's shown me on Enoch is that there's some kind of misunderstanding going on there, that whoever wrote that is a heretic. He copied a lot of, whoever it was, a lot of scriptures from the already existing scriptures. The way it's written is completely different. Whereas Genesis through Malachi, there's a certain way, even though that there's different writers, there's a certain flow and pattern and way everything's written. Enoch and the Apocrypha, and you start reading some of that stuff, and it's completely different, just the way it's written. Strange words that the scriptures never use, and phrases. And I have a video on Enoch. I'm not claiming that every word in Enoch, that book, is false. That's not what I'm claiming, but I'm claiming the book itself is false because there's a lot of contradictions and evil in there, like angels having sex with um, humans, even though that they don't procreate. They're divine. They have that divine spiritual body nature. They don't sin. They don't go on. They're not under death. Wages of sin is death. So if they were to sin, they would have to die. It's the same punishment. Why would that change? And powerful beings like that, like we're supposed to become, like the angels, the nature of them, can't be hurt by actual physical fire. It's nonsense. The messenger of Yahweh could stand in 100,000 degrees flames and it couldn't touch him, okay? Because they're of something else. They have divine nature and power that they can't be touched or hurt by man. It's ridiculous. Or fire or earthquakes or whatever, you know. They cannot die, just like the Messiah said. They can neither die anymore. So the angels, he said the angels. He didn't say some, few, many. The angels, all of them, can neither die anymore. What their history is before, I don't know. It's not important. It's beyond what's written, I believe. If there is some clue, I don't know, maybe. Were they created perfect from the beginning? But what they are now is what they have been all this time. They cannot die, which means they cannot sin. It's pretty simple, pretty obvious. I believe I'll have to check the video that, I think I have it. I read through and show some of the nonsense of Ezekiel and like Isaiah, I think. 2 parables about mankind. That the whole church world, the Roman Catholic Church, they've been promoting this truth of Lucifer, which is not a translated word. It's a Latin word that they left untranslated so that they can promote their doctrine. That word should be translated something like morning star, bright star, something like that. And it's symbolic because it's a parable. And this king, this man, like it's speak the proverb. Go back to the angels and demons, whatever video. Angel, demon, heresy, whatever. I brought that video back up. It's a proverb against the king of Babylon, or a king, a man. And proverb means parable, which means not literal. The Messiah always spoke in parables to the crowd so they don't understand. Because if he spoke plainly in simple, easy words, they would have understood. But they didn't understand. So he spoke like that so that they don't understand. It says that plainly, so that they don't understand. That's why he did that. So they don't understand. Sovereignty of the Father teaches it. It's scattered all over the scriptures, the sovereignty of the Father. And all the scriptures that appear like we have sovereignty and choice and free choice. All those verses are true. The way they're explained is if you do something, if you take a first step of obedience, it is true. He will receive you. It's true. Not denying it. But a carnal man can't do that unless he's already receiving something. You know? It's him dragging you in. You can't do that all on your own without spirit, nothing. Can't do it. The carnal mind is not subjected to his law, Paul says. It's not subjected. It cannot be, nor is it even able to be, he says. Now, what lines up with that truth more so than anything else? That the carnal mind is not subjected to the law of God. It cannot even be, and it's not even able to be. That the commandments and law didn't go away. That's what lines up with all the truth. You'll find that virtually everyone resists this truth. That's how you know. It's true. Because everyone resists it and hates it. Except for the few that are being dragged in. So this video might be a little all over the place, but it's not about like I'm just seeking to do the Father's will. I'm not in like a cult or a group, you know, official, some kind of, uh, you know, like a denomination. We're a group. This is us. This is who we are. I'm under, you know, no. No, you're just going to be hated by all people. That's all. If you love the Father and you keep his commandments. If you can hear the shepherd's voice, you're just going to end up being hated by all people. Just like it says, you shall be hated by all men for my name's sake. So those who aren't, you got a lot of friends that love you and everyone loves you. You're in error because those words are true. Those words are true. Start keeping his commandments and take that first step of obedience and see if those words don't end up being true for you. Keep the Sabbath day, the seventh day, and see if that's these things don't start happening to you, that they'll start to hate you. That's the only path. It's a fiery path. It's a difficult and narrow path. Quoting scripture, the Messiah said that. And few find it. The people who resist this, they know I'm not lying. They could, deep down inside, they know it's true, but they don't want it to be true, okay? And that was true for me too. I resisted it for a little bit, and didn't want it to be true because, well, that's a little bit too hard. I want a convenient, easy life, and I want people to like me, you know? Now, my real life experience has been I've been dumped every single time by anyone who I thought liked me or thought I was their friend or something. Every single time they dumped me. All my life, even before I believed. Even before I believed or was dragged out or called out. And maybe I should do a separate video on that. Because I think the people who are truly being called out went through something similar. So I'll end it right here.